Hi everyone, really glad you could join me today. It's Miss Hargreaves here for those of you that don't know, and I am reading lead at TLAP School along with Mrs Morris, who is reading lead in the early years. I just wanted to talk to you all today about how to promote a love of reading at home and what we do at school here at TLAP. So I'm hoping that I can share my slides with you. Hoping that you guys can see those. So love of reading. So the aims of this session, as I just said, to share our practice in school and to consider practical ways to support your child at home. So reading really is the cornerstone of our school. It improves their writing through increasing their creativity, their understanding of language patterns and vocabulary. Giving children the ability to read opens up a world of possibility. It makes everything accessible. The most important thing that your child will learn at school is reading, and it allows them to access all parts of the curriculum. For example, science diagrams, timelines in history, maps in geography. The list really is endless. We want your child to love reading, and we want them to want to read for themselves. This is why we put all of our efforts into making sure they develop a love of books as well as just simply learning to read. Okay, so develop the habit of reading widely and often for both pleasure and information. I just wanted to show you this quick chart here because it really emphasises the difference that reading 20 minutes with your child makes. So child A reads 20 minutes a day, each day, and that's 3,600 minutes in a school year, and they will be in the 90th percentile of achievement. Child B, who only reads for 5 minutes a day, reads 900 minutes in a school year, and they'll be in the 50th percentile. Child C, who only reads for 1 minute each day, reads 180 minutes in a school year, and they'll be in the 10th percentile. So you can really see that reading makes that huge difference. Okay, so national curriculum, the aim for all children. So the national curriculum's aims for all children are for children to read easily, fluently, and with a good understanding, that being the key. They need to develop the habit of reading widely and often, both for pleasure and information. And we want them to acquire a wide vocabulary whilst they are doing this. Okay, so reading in Key Stage 1. So the things we do in Key Stage 1, we do daily story time. The books are really carefully selected and are often linked to our topics. This is a really important and lovely time that many of the children really enjoy. They often reenact the stories and their characters during free flow, and the things they have heard they use the things they have heard as a stimulus for their imagination. For example, in year 1, we recently read the book The Borrowers, and things kept going missing from around the classroom. The children used their imagination and came to the conclusion that it was the borrowers that had borrowed all the missing items. We've also read The Enormous Crocodile, and some of the children even spotted him in the playground, apparently. Another example is we read The Twits before the holidays. We read The Twits before the summer holidays. And for those of you that don't know, it's a book about 2 disgusting people who play many horrible tricks on each other. Inspired by this, the children made a disgusting cafe. They wrote shopping lists and recipes. They did traps outside, signs and letters to the characters, and all of this stemmed from their love of the story. At TLAP, when we're reading, we use the scheme Read, Write, Ink. It's a tried and tested and highly successful phonics program for children who are learning to read and write. It teaches children both how to decode and understand written language to become confident, enthusiastic readers and writers. The children with the Read, Write, Ink books will do 3 reads of the storybook in school before we send them home. So don't be surprised when they come home and they can read it really well, because that they should be. The key is confidence. We do it for consolidation, so the children are able to memorise the words, and therefore this will help their fluency and speed whilst reading. In our English lessons, we also do Talk for Writing, where our English lead, Mrs. Powell, has carefully selected high quality texts that link to all our topics. The children learn to internalise the language structure of a text through pictures, and they create actions alongside this. So I'm sure many of you have seen it on the YouTube videos. We do things like Big Dragon, and we do actions so that they can internalise and remember the text. And we also spend a lot of time exploring the words as well that come up in these texts, the high quality vocabulary. And we encourage this to be used during free flow and curriculum lessons. For example, in year 1 recently, we've learned about castles and dragons, and we've read a book all about castles and dragons, and it includes things like turrets and arrow slits. And we had a siege outside using the castle. We role played jousting, and we also have a big castle outside in the playground, and all the children are encouraged to use the vocabulary that we've read about in that story outside, and we do a lot of free flow activities to pull that vocabulary out. We're extremely lucky in school because we're centred around museum learning, and therefore we provide many wonderful experiences and trips for our children. For example, the reception children visited Black Park in support of the Gruffalo, and the year 3 and 4s last year visited the Roald Dahl Museum, where they had a workshop and learnt all about how he created his books. And we are hoping that these will continue soon. We just have to follow government advice with those. So we also provide numerous opportunities for the children to read in school, free flow, cosy book corners, we have adult helpers, and reading ambassadors as well. We have a lot of whole school events coming up. We have Roald Dahl Day, World Book Day, and we've even had in the past, last year, we had a lot of authors invited to school to read with the children, and a few drama workshops as well. So there's some photos of the children getting involved with reading. And there's an author that came to the school. So reading in Key Stage 2 is quite similar, so I'll just go quickly through that. So we also do a Talk for Writing text map, and you'll see these on the YouTube channels. In addition to this, they have a connected text, and it's often a high quality, age appropriate chapter book, which they read daily and answer questions about this book. They have daily reading comprehensions as part of their English lessons, and we use the Vipers questions to plan these, and I'll go over the Vipers later in the slides. We do free flow projects that are often centred around high quality texts as well. Okay, so I want you to think, what do you currently do at home to promote a love of reading with your children? So ways of supporting your children reading at home. So one of them is listen to your child read daily, and remember that important 20 minutes of reading, and please make sure you sign the diary as well, just so if we're changing their books we know that they've read at home. Encourage your child to practice any sound cards or green words that are sent home, and make sure your child reads their Read Write Ink book to you, and the key is confidence. Okay, some other ways to support your child reading at home. You can encourage them to retell the story that they are learning at school, and use the YouTube channel to do this. Provide the child with a breadth of reading opportunities, because not only do we read books nowadays, but we also have programs like Audible, which have audio books on them to listen to. There's CBeebies, bedtime stories, which often feature authors reading high quality stories. Magazines, there's lots of different opportunities for children to read. Also visiting the local library when the government allows us, and borrowing books, and letting your child choose the book. Reading print that's all around us, looking at street signs, labels, posters, supermarket labels, making up your own stories using pictures, showing your child how to find out things by reading, so looking at a recipe when you're cooking with them, writing notes together, shopping lists, basically getting your child involved at every opportunity. Okay, so I wanted to talk to you quickly about Vipers. Now, Vipers is our way of supporting the children with their reading comprehension skills. All children will be working on Vipers during those comprehension sessions, and Vipers is an acronym that stands for the different government domains that were brought out on the national curriculum. So as you can see, V stands for vocabulary, I stands for inference, P stands for predict, E stands for explain, R stands for retrieve, and S stands for summarize. And here you can just see a table. These were the domains brought out by the government, and this is what it relates to. So it's just an easier way for us to remember those different reading domains. Okay, so for example, vocabulary. So when we're reading to the children, or when they're reading to us, we ask them questions related to the vocabulary in the book, because this is a large thing that the government wants us to focus on. So we might ask the children, if they're in year 2, what does the word mean in the sentence? So it might be, what does the word despicable mean in the sentence? And then the children have to explain what that word means. In year 3 to year 6, we might ask them, find me one word in the text which told me that the character was angry, and they have to go through and find the word in the text that tells them. Inference. So the next one down is inference, and inference style questions are questions that you cannot directly retrieve from the text. They're ones that you need to use what the character said and done to explain your thoughts, basically. So the question in year 2 might be, why was Floppy angry in the story? And then the children would answer it using their knowledge of what the character has said and done. You might ask them things like, how can you tell that the character was happy? What words did the author use? Things like that. So that's inference style questions, ones that you can't pull directly from the text. You need to really have a careful think about. Predict. So it's predicting what happens next. And here in the table, feel free to take a photo of this. There are some prediction questions for early years, to year 2, some examples, and from year 3 to year 6, getting a little bit trickier. The E in Vipers stands for explain. So questions that require the children to explain. So who is your favourite character in the story, and can you explain why? The mood of the character changes throughout the text. Find and copy the phrases which show this, those kind of questions. The R in Viper stands for retrieve. So these are the ones that you can directly retrieve the answers from the text. So it might be, I don't know, how many sweets did Charlie have when he went to the chocolate factory? So a question like that. And then it's just another example here for year 3 to year 6. And then the S at the end of Vipers stands for sequence or summarize. So summarizing what's happened in the story so far. And you can see some question examples that you guys can use when you're reading with your children at home. So you can use these when you're reading to them or when they're reading to you, just as a way of helping them, because it would really support them and support what we're doing in school. Yeah. So as I say, feel free to take a photo of that if you'd like. Okay. So reading to your child. Reading is so important because it frees them from decoding, from sounding out those words. If you're asking a child to read and they're sounding out it and things like that, they're not actually focusing on what they're reading. So reading to your child allows them to immerse themselves into the story. Yeah, and they can use all their energy into using their imagination. Don't be surprised if they want to hear a certain book again and again. Children thrive on repetition, and this is really important as it helps them to improve speed, increases confidence, and strengthens the connections between the brain to help them learn a new text. And it also allows them, when they're listening to you reading, it allows them to hear the expression and things like that, and how a story should be read. So introduce your child to lots of different books. Could be classical fiction, chapter books, short stories, picture books, joke books, and read them. Also, reading to them the book that was your favourite when you were a child always works. Get them involved in reading. Make sure when you're reading to them that you're reading slowly and with expression. Try to use different and funny voices for the characters. Follow the words and read the story using the pictures, and talk about what is happening, what might happen next, and often leave the story on a cliffhanger, and they'll want to hear it the next day. Okay. And I just wanted to finish with this by Michael Morpurgo, who's an author. He says that open a book and find a whole world out there that you knew nothing about. So I just wanted to emphasize that reading is so important because it gives the children a special access to the lives of others. It enables them to learn and discuss ideas about the world, and it also gives them a firmer understanding of themselves in context to the world around them. So keep reading. Thank you again for listening.